Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And thank you for joining us for this year's edition of the Global Nuclear Science and Engineering Commencement. People from around the world are participating in this event. To ensure a stable connection, and considering the large number of attendees, your video and audio functions have been disabled. There will be a short question and answer session at the end of today's online ceremony. You've already sent more questions than we have time for, so thank you. Please note that we may only have time for a couple of questions at the end, so we may not be able to get to yours and we will not be able to answer your questions in writing. Please stay till the end of the commencement for the opportunity to submit a quote on your experience today. Finally, today's session is being recorded and will be made available online in the near future. Now, a few words of welcome from one of our young graduates, Catherine Obissasson.
Hello, everyone. It is an honor to welcome you all to the second annual Global Nuclear Science and Engineering Commencement today, hosted by the OECD Nuclear Energy Agency, or in short, the NEA. My name is Catherine Obissasson, and I am the 2020 to 2022 Junior Policy Analyst, Young Associate at the NEA, and also a recent graduate myself. In May 2020, I graduated from the University of Maryland with a bachelor's degree in International Relations and Economics. And like much of you, my commencement was held virtually. Being a recent graduate in current times, I've come to understand the value of celebration. Celebrations serve as both a send-off from your community and a reminder from those who contributed to your success that you're ready to embark on the next part of your journey. With the context of COVID-19, it is important students still receive this send-off and reminder. With this in mind, the NEA has guided a group of accomplished professionals from the nuclear community to let you know that your hard work has not gone unnoticed. With that, I now give the floor to the Nea Director General, Willie D. Magwood IV.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're located around the world. Welcome to the second of the global commencements for nuclear engineering. My name is Bill Magwood. I'm Director General of the Nuclear Energy Agency, and it's a true pleasure to be here today to welcome you to this special event. With COVID-19 raging still across the world, it's very difficult for universities to hold their traditional commencement ceremonies. These ceremonies are very important. They both celebrate the accomplishments the students have made in completing their studies and also give them important words of advice to move forward into their careers. Because of COVID-19, many of these ceremonies have been canceled. However, we at the Nuclear Energy Agency have concluded that there is a value in recognizing the accomplishments of those who have been through the difficult studies of nuclear engineering and nuclear science and other areas related to nuclear technology. These areas are very difficult under the best circumstances. Under these circumstances, it's even more difficult. But across the world, hundreds, if not thousands of you have accomplished. And so to that, congratulations. Congratulations on the hard work. Congratulations on completing a very unique area of study, one that many people find too difficult. But you are among the elite and you have completed your studies. So congratulations. And for those of you who are moving into professional careers, we look forward to welcoming you within the nuclear sector. Today, you're going to hear from a series of speakers, and these speakers were selected because they provide a diversity of views about nuclear technology and where your talents can be best applied. And they will all have special advice for you. I, for myself, have been working in the nuclear sector for all of my professional career, which is about 4 million years now. And in that time, I have served both in industry and in government and in regulation, and now today as Director General of the Nuclear Energy Agency in the multilateral organization. Through all those experiences, I can tell you that I don't think in all the years that I've been involved in this business that there has been more exciting a time than there is today. There's more innovation, more new thinking in the nuclear sector today than there has been maybe since the 1950s when nuclear was born. Those of you who are graduating into this field now are embarking on a great adventure. one of the likes of which we've not seen in a great many years, one that shows that nuclear energy is part of the solution to many of the world's problems. Of course, among those problems include climate change, which we will talk about a great deal today because that is the theme of this global commencement. The challenge of climate change is one that is very challenging in the respect that the difficulty that we will all face in reducing CO2 emissions to net zero by about 2050. It really requires changes to society, the likes of which we've really never seen before. We're not talking about doing something that perhaps we did 10 years ago or 30 years ago. We're doing something similar to what happened 50 years ago. This has never happened before. We've never asked society to change this dramatically. And in that respect, a lot of new thinking is necessary. And among the new thinking is new thinking in the nuclear area. Now, why is nuclear important in this respect? Well, I'll give you my personal view. When I look at what's happened during this COVID crisis, I have seen that we have had to switch from driving to work to teleconferencing. We've had to stop flying airplanes and go to video conferences like this one. Children around the world have had to be educated through the internet instead of going to school. Families for entertainment have turned to streaming. Now, all this requires electricity. And it really symbolizes something which I think policymakers around the world are beginning to understand, that we in this century are more reliant on electricity than any generation before us. And the truth is, it's going to get even more intensive in terms of our reliance on electricity because industries around the world are electrifying. They're moving away from the use of fossil fuels and moving towards electrification, which really runs hand in hand with digitalization, which of course is another transformational activity underway. And transportation is moving, it seems like inevitably towards electrical vehicles as opposed to gasoline and petrol-fired vehicles. These are huge changes in society, but they also show that reliance on electricity around the world is going to grow, electricity demand is going to grow, and if we're trying to reduce the impact on the environment at the same time, then there are not many options that we have before us. We at the NEA believe that nuclear is a big part of the solution. That nuclear energy, which today, right now, is the largest source of clean energy in OECD countries and in the larger economies around the world. And globally, nuclear is the second largest contributor to electricity that does not emit greenhouse gases. Nuclear energy is the only non-emitting technology that's dispatchable and expandable. And we believe that if you're serious about climate change, you have to look at nuclear power. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to build nuclear power plants in every country. Don't think that'll happen. Don't think it should happen. But many countries are looking at building nuclear plants and expect that in combination with renewables, that this provides a very clear pathway to net zero emissions of carbon. So in that context, you are graduating. And those of you who are moving into the field, we're going to find that the opportunities, the challenges, the discussions ahead are going to be extraordinarily exciting. I, for myself, look forward to seeing the contributions that all of you make. It's time for new thinking, it's time for innovation. And as always, younger people come in with new ideas and new ways of doing business. You will change the society around you, and you will change the nuclear industry. And I think it will change it for the better. Today, you're going to hear from first our keynote speaker, Professor Richard Lester, who is a chair of the newly founded Global Forum on Nuclear Education, Technology, Science, and Policy, which is hosted by the Nuclear Energy Agency. Professor Lester is also Associate Provost at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where he oversees the Institute's international activities. He'll talk a little bit more about the Global Forum. But the Global Forum is an exciting new initiative that provides for the first time a global framework for cooperation among academicians that are working in the nuclear sector. something we're very excited about. After Professor Lesser, you will hear from Karen Astor Hallberg, who will give the charge to the graduates. She is Professor of Physics at the Bocero Institute and Research Director at the Bariloche Atomic Center in Argentina. She's also won the 2019 L'Oreal UNESCO Award for Women in Science. On behalf of industry, you'll hear from John Hopkins, who's Chairman and CEO of the Advanced Small Modular Reactor Technology Development Company known as NuScale Power, who is going to deliver a salute from the industry. These are very exciting speakers, and you're going to hear more from others as the day goes on. But for now, I will give the floor to Richard for his opening keynote. Richard, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you to everyone around the world for attending this event. To our graduates, it's fitting that we should be celebrating your accomplishments today on a global scale in this global ceremony, because your achievement in successfully overcoming the obstacles imposed by the pandemic will stand the test of time. You've already earned at least a footnote in history. But it's also fitting because the challenge you're all facing now as you begin your careers, the challenge of climate change, is a global challenge. And if you succeed in meeting that challenge, it will truly be a historic achievement. I'll return to this point, but first, let me introduce myself. I'm Richard Lester, and I'm Associate Provost at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I also serve as chair of the newly formed Council of Advisors of the Global Forum on Nuclear Education, Science, Technology, and Policy. The purpose of this new forum is to build bridges between the worldwide nuclear academic community, the students and professors in your universities, and the nuclear policymakers in all of the countries you've come from. For my whole career, I've been a professor of nuclear science and engineering, and it's been my privilege to work with generations of students and to see what they've been able to do to push the limits of the possible in our field. And now, by working with the Global Nuclear Forum, I'm able to see for myself how educators in other countries around the world prepare their students for a nuclear future. Every country has its own approach, of course, but you won't be surprised to hear that there are many similarities and commonalities. After all, the laws of nuclear science and engineering don't change when you cross national borders. But what has also been apparent to me is a different kind of commonality, that many nuclear students around the world, regardless of their home country, want to contribute to the ongoing fight against climate change. And they, or I should say you, are uniquely well positioned to do so. We know that climate change is one of the greatest challenges we face, both in terms of its potential impacts on the planet and on our societies, and in terms of the sheer scale of the international cooperation needed to tackle it. To achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions later this century, we'll need to pursue two tracks simultaneously and at fast forward speed. On track one, we need to go as far as we can, as fast as we can, with the technologies and policies we have now. On track two, we need to invest in, invent, and deploy new technologies and tools. And nuclear science and technology will play a crucial role on both tracks. On track one, existing nuclear technologies will be essential to achieving rapid reductions in carbon emissions from the power grid, as long as they can be operated safely and economically. On track two, new nuclear technologies, both fission and fusion, will very likely be needed for deeper reductions in carbon emissions, not just for a carbon neutral power grid, but also for tackling the other 60% of global carbon emissions that don't originate from the electric power sector, importantly, including the industrial sector. And perhaps also to provide the immense amounts of zero carbon energy that will be needed to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which many assessments say will be essential to augment the effort to reduce emissions if we're to achieve the net zero goal. Carrying forward nuclear along both of these tracks starts with you. You have spent the past several years learning and applying new knowledge. You've asked questions. You've come up with new ideas. You've developed new skills. And perhaps you've changed your minds about some things. Indeed, I hope you have changed your minds about some things. In any case, because of the central role of nuclear, your studies have given you the tools to serve on the front lines of the struggle to prevent the worst consequences of climate change. This is important work, and we, your teachers, ask you to take action on it. In making this request of you, we don't speak with moral authority because our generation has ignored this problem for too long. Nevertheless, we're counting on you to help harness the extraordinary potential of nuclear science and technology to contribute to decarbonization and to make a better world. As I speak to you today, I cannot help but think back to my own nuclear graduation. At that time, there was another existential threat facing the world, the nuclear arms race. In that case, too, graduates in nuclear science and engineering were called on to make an important contribution to overcoming a global threat. And that threat aroused the same kind of fear and outrage among young people that we see today about climate change. The nuclear arms race persists today, of course, but although many people didn't predict this at that time, it has been managed. My fervent hope is that this generation of nuclear graduates, your generation, will do at least as well in overcoming the climate challenge. And so, to conclude, today I speak on behalf of all of your teachers in warmly congratulating you on your success as young graduates in our field. And I wish you continued success as you embark on your careers for all of our sakes. Thank you, and again, many congratulations.
Thank you very much, Richard. Your remarks are very much on point, and I particularly appreciate your comments comparing the climate change crisis to the Cold War, and agree that it is similar in terms of the existential threat that many people believe that it poses. However, they're dissimilar when you consider the amount of resources that were expended fighting the Cold War on both sides, compared to what's happened today so far in dealing with the climate crisis. I guess the future will see what happens next. So we'll move on to the next speaker, which is Karen Hallberg. Karen, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to first thank the NEA Director General, William Magwood, for his very kind introduction. It is a tremendous honor for me to have been invited to speak at this momentous occasion. I congratulate you all for this achievement. Of course, you must feel fulfilled, proud, and happy to have completed an important step in your lives. Remembering my own graduation, I recall I felt a mixture of accomplishment, of relief, and above all, of deep gratitude to all those who had supported and helped me and trained us during our career. I also remember feeling anxious about what will come. In that moment, I recall the words of my grandpa, an English railway engineer who immigrated to Argentina in the beginning of last century. When I graduated, he told me very seriously, enjoy this moment in which all your future lies ahead. Mine, instead, my future already lies behind me. So, carpe diem, enjoy what you've achieved to now, and look ahead with optimism, compromise, and responsibility. And here's what I'd like to stop and reflect on this last word, responsibility. You have received a tough training. You have studied and have acquired knowledge. You are now prepared to be experts in your fields. And this knowledge is precisely what will give you power and authority what will enable you to contribute to the well-being and to impact on the lives of people throughout the world. So it is important to realize that this knowledge should be used in a responsible and ethical manner. Your professional work should be guided by the same ethical values that apply in everyday life, including intellectual honesty, fairness, objectivity, openness, respect for others, and trustworthiness with yourselves, with your colleagues, students and institutions, and also with the general public. You should also serve as role models for your future students and for fellow researchers and professionals, and you should exemplify responsible practices in your teaching and in your professional lives. To encourage young nuclear engineers and physicists at my home institution in Bariloche, at the Balseiro Institute in Bariloche in Argentina, to encourage these young students to reflect on their values, we offer them the possibility of taking an ethical oath in the same spirit of the medical Hippocratic Oath, which reads, "I promise to work for a better world where science and technology are used in socially responsible ways. I will not use my education for any purpose intended to harm human beings or the environment. And before acting, I will consider the ethical implications of my work. I take this oath because I accept that individual responsibility is the first step on the path to peace." So, well, the challenges, the challenges ahead are formidable, and as young and promising professionals, you have a very important role to play. Several of those challenges stem from decades ago, and others are more recent. Let me tell you, for example, way back in 1955, and concerned about the uncontrolled and on the tremendous release of energy and destructive power of the explosions of hydrogen bombs, Albert Einstein and Bertrand Russell wrote a beautiful manifesto in which they urge scientists, technologists, and policymakers to reflect on the consequences of new technologies on humanity and on the environment, and to imagine new ways to solve conflicts, mainly relying on rational thinking and dialogue. As a consequence of this manifesto, the Russell-Einstein Manifesto, there was a first meeting in a small town of Pugwash in Canada, and this led to the currently known Pugwash Conferences for Science and World Affairs, which was awarded together with one of its founders, the nuclear physicist Joseph Rotblat. It was awarded the Peace Nobel Prize in 1995 for their efforts to diminish the part played by nuclear arms in international politics and, in the longer run, to eliminate such arms. In addition to these old problems, but still very, very current, in addition to that, we're now facing important challenges posed by the relentless degradation of our environment, and we're witnessing the direct consequences of climate change we are ourselves generating. And here is where your role becomes even more relevant. You can contribute to curb this trend and to ensure a sustainable future for everybody on this planet. This is also part of your responsibility. So to conclude, let me recall the final words of the Russell-Einstein Manifesto, which has served me as a guide in my professional and private life. It reads the following: "We appeal as human beings to human beings. Remember your humanity and forget the rest. I wish you all an intense and happy life." Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Karen. Very inspiring, and appreciate your charge to the graduates. It's often not stated enough that all that really everyone has responsibility for the things they do and the engagements they make. But I think particularly scientists and engineers have a responsibility, and nuclear scientists and engineers have special responsibilities. I think even beyond some others, because Everything that people in this community do affects so many different things, particularly in the safety side. And we are, of course, often preach the need for people to take personal responsibility for safety. So the responsibility of all of us is very important. I appreciate that you pointed that to the graduates. Next, providing a salute from the nuclear industry, longtime colleague and friend, John Hopkins, the CEO of NuScale Power. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Director General Magwood, for that kind introduction. Hello, and congratulations to you and your loved ones on this momentous achievement. It's my great honor to deliver commencement remarks today for this incredible group of graduates from all over the world. It has been a challenging year, to say the least, and you all should be extremely proud of your accomplishments during these unprecedented times. As countries around the world look to improve energy efficiency and sustainability, our future engineers, nuclear scientists, and technology innovators, which are all of you, can have a real and positive impact where it matters most, improving the quality of life for billions of people who need electricity, who need clean air and water, and who need economic growth. And by working to stop climate change, one of the most pressing challenges of our time. As we shift our energy consumption away from greenhouse gas emitting power sources that exacerbate the effects of climate change, we must invest in clean sources of energy that will remain resilient in the face of our changing environment. And as countries around the world rethink and rebuild their critical energy infrastructure, the resiliency, safety, and economic benefits of nuclear energy are a true game changer. As leaders in the nuclear field, we will look to you for the solutions that will bring us closer to a carbon-free future. I am confident that each and every one of you can bring about that critical change. At NuScale, we don't view the solution to climate change as a one-size-fits-all, zero-sum game. We truly need all of the above, renewables, nuclear, hydro, and more, if we're going to mitigate the disastrous effects of climate change successfully. Furthermore, we recognize that the next generation of nuclear power plants must adapt to climate changes, including an increased frequency of extreme weather events. It will be your challenge and responsibility to carry on this vital role nuclear energy plays in our lives currently and bring it into the 21st century. As you know, NuScale has developed a game-changing nuclear power plant rooted in the fully factory fabricated NuScale power module, capable of generating 77 megawatts of electricity using a safer, smaller, and scalable version of pressurized light water reactor technology. Our design offers the benefits of carbon-free nuclear power while reducing the financial and siting commitments associated with traditional large-scale facilities. Our largest scalable power plant can house up to 12 modules, providing up to 924 megawatts. Our scalable power plant design allows investments in generating capacity to be right-sized for the application at hand and provides the flexibility to grow over time. Our SMRs can provide zero carbon, high-capacity baseload, and extensive load-following power to integrate with intermittent renewable energy sources like wind and solar, reducing the need for fossil-based capacity firming power. NuScale plants can change power generation using the highly maneuverable core design, or for rapid changes in power output, a turbine bypass feature. With this technology, zero-carbon options like wind and solar can thrive without relying on fossil-based generation or expensive battery storage while maintaining grid stability. NuScale's SMR was designed deliberately for operational flexibility to facilitate decarbonization of a diverse range of non-electrical applications, including water desalination, district heating, and hydrogen production. While fossil fuels have traditionally powered these applications, the NuScale plant provides a reliable, zero-carbon power alternative. Since 2012, NuScale has engaged in more than 20 research projects at a geographically diverse number of universities, including 2 international universities, and we continue to engage in new R&D opportunities. The growing relationship between NuScale and the academic community is a natural partnership spurred by a mutual spirit of imagination, creativity, and innovation. Thanks to the nuclear science, technology, and engineering experts like all of you, NuScale is advancing towards the commercialization and deployment of its first-of-a-kind advanced nuclear reactor by the end of this decade and hopefully sooner. Despite the many challenges we have faced due to the pandemic, 2020 was actually a big year for advanced nuclear, and especially NuScale. In August 2020, we made history as the first and only small modular reactor to receive design approval from the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, or the NRC. To add a bit more color to this incredible accomplishment, NuScale's 12,000-page design certification application took more than 2 million engineering hours, involved more than 800 people, and cost in excess of $500 million US to prepare. We are also preparing for our first deployment project for our customer, the Utah Associated Municipal Power Systems, UAMPS, and its carbon-free power project, which will be located at the U.S. Department of Energy's Idaho National Laboratory site. The NuScale power plant will generate electricity for UAMPS customers in Utah, Nevada, New Mexico, and Idaho. Again, our success and ability to deliver on a cleaner future for all our communities is in a big part thanks to graduates like yourselves. The promise of advanced nuclear energy is a global one. We have memorandums of understanding to examine the deployment of NuScale SMRs in 12 countries around the world. We see nuclear energy and SMR development on a global scale in the path forward for our company's success and for the betterment of humankind. I hope you see the same opportunities in your prospects thanks to nuclear engineering. An exciting career, opportunities for innovation, and personal enrichment that aligns with your own goals and aspirations to help make our world a better one. We must all work to demonstrate how cleaner and safer advanced nuclear designs can bring numerous benefits, economic and environmental, to countries around the world as they seek innovative paths to complete a clean energy transition. As you move on to the next phase in your career, you join an incredible community of nuclear experts, engineers, and advocates that are there to support you and to learn from you and work with you to bring about a better, more sustainable future. You are graduating at an exciting and crucial time for nuclear energy. There is much work to be done, but I am confident that all of you are ready to take on this important charge. While the challenge before us looms large, I have no doubt that each of you will play a part in building a cleaner, healthier, and more hopeful future for people around the world. Congratulations on all your work, and good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John, and very much appreciate your intervention. And in particular, you highlighted that it's not what seems to be the eternal question, nuclear or renewables. It's nuclear and renewables. That is the path to the future for many countries, and I think that's becoming more and more well understood as we go forward. And I think it was also very important that you pointed out that, at least in the case of NuScale Power, your technology will be available before the end of the decade. And that puts the reality to the assertion that innovations in nuclear take 30 or 40 years as in the long-term future is too long to wait. It's coming right around the corner. So I really appreciate your remarks today. And I appreciate Richard and Karen's remarks as well. You're all very inspiring. Thank you for participating this morning. And thank you for bringing your experience, your expertise, and your passion to today's commencement. Now we're going to move on to a panel for discussion for the rest of this commencement. And I'd like to introduce our next set of speakers. As you can see, coming before you today will be first Professor Emeritus of the University of Tokyo and Chairman Suzuki Method, Professor Hayano. He'll be the first speaker, followed by Sylvia Rettilio, who is the professor, who is the president of Paris-Saclay University, who will be then followed by Arun Khaton, who I'm very excited to hear what he has to say. He is the in-states engineer at Magnos Limited, but perhaps more relevant to today's discussion, the COP26 lead for youth and nuclear, working out of the UK. And finally, Ekaterina Bogdanova will be speaking to us to round out this panel. She is a research and development engineer at MEFI, the National Research University located in Moscow. But first, Professor Hayano, the floor is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. For over a year, COVID-19 has forced all of us to change our way of life. Lectures have become remote and research activities have been disrupted. Nonetheless, you all overcame these difficulties and completed your programs. Congratulations. I'm sure your family, friends, supervisors, and colleagues are all happy to see you graduate. It is a great honor for me to have this opportunity to give a speech today. I would like to thank Mr. William Magwood, Director General of OECD NEA, and his team for inviting me. First of all, I would like to tell you why I, a researcher in fundamental or pure physics, happens to be giving a speech today, as I think my story might be helpful for you to think about your future career. For over 20 years, until a few years ago, I was a group leader of an international team studying antimatter at CERN, the European Laboratory for Particle Physics located in Geneva, Switzerland. Also, being a physics professor at the University of Tokyo, I was commuting from Tokyo to Geneva almost every month. Antimatter research is exciting, but it does not help us solve issues like climate change. Most of my interests were therefore limited to the academic world. This all changed in March 2011 with the accident at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. In the beginning, purely out of curiosity, I collected the radiation-related data around Fukushima Daiichi and in various parts of Japan, visualized the data and posted the results on Twitter. To my surprise, the number of my Twitter followers quickly exceeded 150,000 within a few days. With so many followers, I couldn't help but feel a sense of social responsibility. Amid this crisis, I wondered if there was anything I could do to give back to the taxpayers who have supported my research so far. Thus, I launched various activities to help the residents of Fukushima regain their daily lives. For example, I worked with medical doctors in Fukushima on the survey of radiation exposure of residents, communicated our finding to the residents, and published the results in scientific journals. Many of our results are included in the report of UNSCARE, that is the United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation, UNSCARE. On March 11 this year, Japan marked the 10th anniversary of the Fukushima Daiichi accident. There are still many problems, such as the tritium-containing water, the long road to decommissioning Fukushima Daiichi, and so on. The good news is that the UNSCARE 2020 report clearly stated that the radiation-linked increases in cancer rates are not expected to be seen. Nearly 2 million people living in Fukushima do not need to worry about health problems. However, there still is a big problem. As many as 40% of people in Fukushima believe that there is a possibility that their descendants, that is children or grandchildren, will suffer from the radiation-linked genetic effects. Such concerns are unnecessary because studies conducted over the past 70 years have established that no genetic effects have yet been seen in children of Hiroshima and Nagasaki A-bomb survivors. By the way, did you know this fact? Then, why are so many people worried about it? This is because telling the scientific facts is not enough to gain people's trust and conviction. Having a solid scientific basis is essential, but that alone will not convince people. Keep in mind that communicating with people and gaining their trust is extremely important yet difficult. In the various fields where you will be active in the future, this kind of problem will certainly occur. Now, to fight climate change, a lot of yet unknown innovation will be needed. We all hope that you will take on new challenges, but how does a new challenge begin? Well, let's take it easy. Everyone isn't an amateur when it comes to tackling something new, something that no one has ever done before. You may be inexperienced initially, but your mind is fresh, which is good. So do try something new while you are young, while you have plenty of time to recover from your mistakes or failures. But this does not mean that you cannot challenge new things later in your career. In fact, I was 59 years old when I started working in Fukushima. So continue to sharpen your professional skills while maintaining an interest in a wide range of fields so that you can contribute to innovation and or give something back to society whenever such chance arises. Thank you all for having me. I'm honored to have spoken with you today, and once more, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Haryano Sensei. It's very appropriate remarks. And let me also take the opportunity to thank you for all the work you've done on behalf of the people of Fukushima. I think that the research you've done has been very important. And it reminds me of a little known story about a group of French students that wore special dosimeters that were taking data digitally for a long period. They put these dosimeters on before they left France, and they flew to Japan and toured the Fukushima area and were curious about doing radiation assessments. And then they flew back to France, and then the badges were assessed. And the badges showed that the highest radiation doses they received were on the flight going to Japan and on the flight coming back. And the radiation dose they received in Fukushima was actually less than what they got living in France. So it does highlight for you, as you said, the sort of the fictions that go with life in Fukushima and really about radiation in general, something we all have to continue working on. And as we try to educate people, I'm very pleased to highlight that we are very close to Paris-Saclay University, which has become a major research and development center in France. And I'm extraordinarily happy to have the president of Paris-Saclay University, Sylvie, with us today to give her remarks. And so Sylvie, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning, good afternoon to everyone. So I thank the NEA Director General William Magwood for this introduction, and I'm very honored to be with you today for this Global Nuclear Science and Engineering Commencement event. So the first laboratory at our university was the Institute of Nuclear Physics of Orsay, created by Frédéric and Irène Joliot-Curie in 1956, and Irène Joliot-Curie, who were awarded the Nobel Prize in 1935 with her husband, Frédéric, for the discovery of artificial radioactivity, and was actually the daughter of Pierre and Marie Curie. If you are not familiar, Marie Curie was the first woman to have received the Nobel Prize and the only woman to ever receive 2 Nobel Prizes. Needless to say, our Institute of Nuclear Physics was renamed in the process of merging with other labs, the Irene Joliot-Curie Lab in 2020. So the field of nuclear physics is a formidable example of the prominent place and role of women in science, or can I say in nuclear science for this. And Marie Curie being born in Poland. And she is an example in the internationalization of education and research, which are a part of the strong values of nuclear community. So nuclear allows the production of energy using low carbon energy technologies, waiting for the development of alternative means of replacing fossil energies for electricity production. Indeed, faced with global warming and the demand for electricity, which might continue to grow in the coming years with, for example, electric vehicles, increased digitization. So some of eminent climatologists and economists view nuclear power as an indispensable asset and see nuclear energy as an important alternative to fossil fuels. This is exemplified by the report of October 6, 2018, of the International Group of Experts on Climate Change, which presents the global scientific consensus on climate issues, including the trajectories for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which considers that nuclear is an essential energy source for limiting global warming. Among the research done at Paris-Saclay University, the topics of energy, climate, and environment are essential to us. Nuclear power and physics can help fight climate change and in particular contribute to achieve the goals established in the 2015 Paris Agreement under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Despite some questions concerning security and nuclear waste management, with the available technologies, some significant advantages of nuclear power are: first, it provides the possibility of massive production of low carbon electricity with the low CO2 emissions of nuclear power are comparable or even lower than those of wind power, for example. Second, it occupies a small surface area on the ground and therefore leaves more room for biodiversity and requires little raw material in relation to the power supply. It has the advantage of being relatively controllable to respond effectively to variations in demand, unlike some of the renewable energies whose production depends on climatic conditions and are not adjustable according to needs. For you, young graduates who are joining the job market working in the nuclear energy domain, is also the assurance of long-lasting and stable jobs and important development prospects. One of the specificities of the nuclear industry lies in its high level of skills and competencies required. Preparing for the nuclear power of the future in relation for the fight against climate change means that training new generations to this field is vital. The growing need for qualified personnel in the nuclear industry is leading to a strengthening of specialized training. Today, 37% of companies in the sector recruit workers from specific nuclear training. The number of training courses specializing in nuclear power has increased sharply in recent years. For example, nearly 70 training courses specializing in nuclear power are listed in France, where the number of specialist engineers graduating per year are thus tripled in 4 years. It's the young generation who could drive the development of new technologies and reactors, which could be more compact than precious water reactors, as well as assuring the safety of existing reactors and thus be the catalyzer we need for making nuclear energy the primary energy choice for every country. What we are seeing now is an increased and renewed interest, especially from countries wishing to increase their nuclear electricity production or to access this mode of production to address the energy security and climate change targets. And this is surely one great achievement for our nuclear community, for you as nuclear graduates, and hope for our society, which is to build a greener environment for generations to come. With this word, I congratulate all the graduating students of the classes of 2021 in the nuclear science and engineering domain. A graduation is always an exceptional moment, and today is your day. And I know that you have experienced difficult moments. You have gone through moments of doubt, of questioning, and you have held on as proof your degree today. You can be proud today, proud of your success that will allow you to have the choice and achieve your goals, the first step for self-improvement. And to finish, I encourage you to build a cleaner and greener world for the future. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Excellent remarks. And I appreciate that you highlighted that countries have a growing interest in nuclear. We are seeing it. We are seeing it very much. And it does mean that every country will build nuclear plants, as I said earlier, but it does mean that more countries are going to be looking at the option. And again, thank you for being with us this morning. I know you can't stay around for the Q&A, but Professor Leblanc, I think, will be with us a bit later. So again, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next, Arun Khatang, who I mentioned is the COP26 lead for youth and nuclear. And I've been looking forward to seeing what Arun will have to say because he tends to be a bit of a dynamic speaker. So Arun, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Director General Magwood for inviting me to speak here today. It's a great honor to be able to address the future leaders within the nuclear sector. Now, I want to start by saying I didn't always want to work in nuclear. In fact, I struggled for some time figuring out what I went for and figuring out what I wanted to do. My parents had a big say in what that was. They encouraged me to be a medical doctor. And after an initial rebellious phase, I got quite bought into it, actually, but it still never really worked out. In fact, a lot of things didn't work out quite the way I wanted them to, but I look back now and I see how that's shaped me and how it's prepared me for where I am now. One thing I did know was that I wanted to see an improved world. I knew I wanted to be a part of it, but I had no idea how. And to be honest, sometimes I just wanted to hide away from it all, from all the negativity that I saw in the world. Being the shy, chubby kid for many years growing up made it easier to hide away. And it was only after university that I really began finding my voice. In fact, I never thought my opinion mattered, and I normally keep quite quiet. But I always kept my big ears open to understand as many other perspectives as possible. It's only after many years of listening, staying quiet, having small conversations that I incrementally built up my confidence and began to feel more comfortable about sharing my own voice. And I'm so glad I did. So ask yourself, how much do you talk? How much do you listen, actively listen and take on board other points? Because it's a really important skill and beginning to work on it will take you very far. Now, my parents grew up in poverty in India. My dad in extreme poverty, actually, and he's told me horrible stories of how he barely had enough money to buy a shirt so he could go to school, experienced life or death situations while he looked after his younger siblings, trying to survive the harsh monsoon seasons when he didn't barely have a roof over his head. And I think about these situations and I can see now why sometimes he wanted me to be a doctor, because where he's from, having a doctor around would mean the difference between life and death. Now, these perspectives aren't necessarily well known in developed nations. Most of us are extremely privileged, and we must seriously think about the future role we have in the world of energy for the hundreds of billions of people that will look back and decide if we were good or bad ancestors. Now, energy poverty is real, and we must fight to develop the billion or so people in the world still living without electricity. And we have to do it cleanly. It's the biggest challenge of our generation. We're at the moment where global energy demand is projected to increase dramatically, and whilst meeting those demands, we have to ensure abundance, prosperity for all, and we have to do it sustainably. We are an extremely lucky and unfortunate generation at the same time. We have this huge challenge of climate change on one hand, but we have the challenge of climate change. We have the opportunity to rise to that challenge. So it's all about the perspective. How many of you envision a future of energy and the role of nuclear? What obstructs it to you? Did you know that, for example, the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, have 4 illustrative pathways to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius? And they show that nuclear energy must substantially increase in the coming decades in all of those pathways. Nuclear energy offers a future filled with abundance and prosperity for all. The benefit to harm ratio is unparalleled, and we must work to ensure it works with popular renewables. Now, there was a recent European Union Joint Research Centre comprehensive study done on nuclear, and I'll read you the quote exactly because I like to get this right. They found that analyses did not reveal any science-based evidence that nuclear energy does more harm to human health or the environment than any other electricity production technologies already included in the EU taxonomy as activities supporting climate change mitigation. So that was the unbiased result of that research centre review. The science is clear. However, the political and public will, you might find, is quite the opposite. And that's why we are so important. We must be the ones to rise up and fight for nuclear energy. No one else is going to do it. And we are the ones we have been waiting for. We must all do our bit. We must all speak up for science and ensure it isn't about ideology. And unfortunately, there will be hurdles in the way. But everything we do increases the probability that the correct decisions are made, and it brings in that window for climate change mitigation that could save numerous lives. Now it's our time for our voices to be heard. Consider what really drives you, what role you might have now that you have an excellent grounding as a nuclear graduate. You're so well primed for a successful future that could really help better the world. Not just for us, but for everyone out there. Don't take that for granted, and don't be afraid to stand up for science. Thank you very much. It's been an honor to speak to you all today.
Thank you very much, Arun. I appreciate you pointed out the fact that there's so many people that still don't have regular access to reliable electricity. Not just electricity, but cooking materials, clean water. There's probably around 1 billion people that still are very underserved in these areas. And when people in air-conditioned rooms talk about how to mitigate climate change, it may be too easy for them to forget about the people that are still striving to lead the kind of lives that we in OECD countries live. And I think that energy is going to be key to that, and that just cannot be forgotten. So thank you for highlighting that. Our last speaker, and certainly not the least, is Ekaterina Bogdanova, who, again, as I mentioned, is from NEFI University. And Ekaterina, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Magwood, for introducing and inviting me. Thank you, Nuclear Energy Agency team, and thank you to all graduates taking part here today. It is indeed an honor for me to be here and to be part of this celebration of students. This year, myself, I am actually graduation with doctoral degree from the National Research Nuclear University, MEFI. So I too share your excitement and anticipation of this new chapter of your life, transitioning to a professional career. Now, we all face the important task to help to create a better future for the world. Taking the insights of our teachers, mentors, and colleagues, drawing on a collective experience and working together, we can create a cleaner, healthier, carbon-free future. During my studies, I had the opportunity to intern at the Nuclear Energy Agency and Tokyo Institute of Technology. The activities of those internships were slightly different, but both demonstrated how it is important to build international cooperation, knowledge, and exchange. Trainings opened for me the endless field of opportunities for learning, continuous improvement, development of soft skills, and certainly allow me to find new friends and colleagues. Only through international collaborations, through taking part of this international community, and cultivation the exchanges of knowledge surrounding nuclear, can we work together to address the current challenge and find ways to mitigate climate change and protect the environment. Continuing on from the Nuclear Energy Agency and Tokyo Tech, I was involved in a joint project between Japan and Russia at MIFI. Together with colleagues from the Tokyo Institute of Technology and Tokyo State University, we worked on improvement to critical safety technology for Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station decommissioning. The joint knowledge can be very useful to establish measures to prevent criticality accidents. The combination of experiences of both countries made a helpful output which cannot be obtained only by one side. This joint study is a good example of the continuous and meaningful collaboration in nuclear engineering to help advance the viability of nuclear and subsequently provide more potentials for climate change mitigation. Nuclear is a known carbon dioxide source and can be deployed on a large scale in the time frame required, supplying the world with clean and affordable electricity. The use of nuclear energy today avoids emissions roughly equivalent to removing 1/3 of all cars from the world's roads, and we can improve these indicators. We are the ones who are responsible for the safe use of nuclear technology. There should be no more accidents, no more mistakes. Nowadays, we have unique computer capabilities. We have more tools, more resources, and more technologies than ever to enhance the safety of nuclear systems, move to a closed nuclear fuel cycle, and arrange successful reactor operation. As a nuclear graduate, we have the responsibility and the capability to build the next generation nuclear power technologies to address the world transition to low carbon energy systems. It is very important to improve and expand generation for reactors that meets clean air objectives and provides effective fuel utilization for worldwide energy production. Each of us who is still studying or just starting his career a contribution to the fight against climate change. The future is in our hands. It is up to us what kind of world the next generation will live in. And I am assured that the sooner we think about it, the sooner each of us asks yourself, what exactly can I do? The better results we can achieve. What about me? I am going to continue work in the nuclear field and I am going to teach at the university. The safe use of nuclear technologies is reliant on skilled and trained human resources. My current research focuses on the multi-physics modeling, Monte Carlo calculations, and code verifications. And there is no doubt that tools development, maintaining databases, as well as mathematical modeling can help to advance the existing and developing nuclear technologies, as well as the effective knowledge management and education help achieve these goals. I believe that the attraction of the young generation to nuclear science and engineering and transfer of knowledge can help in the pursuit of decarbonizing the electricity supply. We live in a very interesting time. It's not simple. Quite the opposite, it is more than ever need of new solutions, new ideas, and new perspectives. And you are part of it. You are the part of the global nuclear community. Together, we can contribute towards solving one of the greatest challenges faced by humankind should be deployed. We can build a cleaner and truly sustainable world. I am very excited to be here today. Thank you all for your hard work and congratulations. I wish you very good lives. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ekaterina. I appreciate your very personal perspective on this issue. And you raised an issue which I think I'd like to follow up on first. So let me invite all the speakers to come on camera. First, I thank all of you for all your remarks. All of them are very much on target, and I hope the audience appreciated every word. Let me start with something that Ekaterina raised about the people, because that's what we're here to really talk about, the students, the new graduates coming into the field. And I believe we probably now have Professor Leblanc with us. Professor, welcome to substitute for Sylvie, who had to take care of another urgent issue. And perhaps I'll start with you and ask this question: Do you believe this is an area of major concern? Do we have enough people coming into the nuclear sector today in different parts of the world and globally to meet the needs that we see? One of the speakers mentioned the IPCC. I think it was Arun mentioned the IPCC report that nuclear would have to expand quite dramatically in almost every scenario. Well, where are the people going to come from? And certainly in some places, in Russia particularly, I think, in the United States, there's a lot of graduates, but in a lot of other countries, not as many. What's your view of where we are today as far as the human capital?
So good morning, everybody. Just before giving my answer, I just want to tell my congratulations to all the students that are getting their degree now. And now to get to the answer to your question, from a very French perspective, we have this major actor for the nuclear energy industry, EDF, who built all our nuclear reactor fleet over the past 40 years. And all these people, engineers, technicians who were involved in the construction are now getting retired. So we have a problem of transferring knowledge from the, let's say, older generation to the new ones. So clearly our industrial actors are really, really willing to recruit new people. Now, the problem is somehow from a student point of view, I would say an educated student point of view, the nuclear fleet has been there, will be there for quite a long, and it looks like it is not an active field for economy. It is not like an interesting field in perspective of career, which is obviously completely wrong, as everyone knows in the audience. So we have the task at the university to bring this to the students, to show them that there is potential for career, for development, and but the people are there. I mean, we have plenty of students who are ready, who are looking for jobs, and so on and so on. So we have in our university the human capital that exists. The second thing is the Université Paris-Saclay. We intend to open our programs to the international, so that we can help other benefiting of what we know, of our knowledge and skills. So we received every single year more than hundreds of applications to our master programs, and we try to recruit them as much as we can to provide them the best education we can give. So I would say the human potential is there. Maybe most of them, these young students, do not know it yet. And we have, as teachers, the duty to inform them and to provide them the necessary information and education from a very civic point of view, from the very, very first moment they enter the university.
Thank you. Other panelists, any comments on the human capital aspect of this? Do we have enough people in the right places to see this future happen? Any other comments? Okay, all right. Well, let me ask you a question. You may think I would ask Ekaterina this question. I'm going to ask you this question. What about women? You know, we've had the observation made, and the UK has been very eloquent in this, in issuing some goals to see, I think, 40% of the workforce in nuclear be female by 2030. I can't quite remember the date.
Yeah.
Well, why is that important in your view?
It's absolutely important to get a diverse and inclusive mix. I think that there's two aspects to it. There's probably many more, but there's two immediate ones that I see. One, just making people feel included at work is so important, and it enhances productivity. It's good for businesses, but it actually gets people more involved and feeling part of a bigger mission. And getting that pipeline in for women, making sure there is adequate representation is a part of that bigger picture. So yeah, you're right. The UK, we've committed to 40% of women in nuclear by 2030. But it's all about that diversity of thought. You want to be able to get different perspectives on what we're doing. What we're doing is for everybody. So nuclear energy should be for everybody, and if we want it to be for everybody, everybody needs to be included. All the different minoritized groups, whether it's ethnic diversities, women in engineering, or disabilities, neurodiversity, they're all equally important and part of this bigger picture. So yeah, absolutely essential. And we talk about energy poverty as well, and all of these issues are intertwined: social justice, environmental justice, and equality and inclusion as well.
Oh, thank you. Look, I know our time is short, so I'm going to just sort of ask another question. I want to direct this to Professor Hayano because obviously the Fukushima Daiichi experience has had an impact on the public perception of nuclear and on the political perception of nuclear. And one of the questions we got from the audience was, do we see countries seem to be moving in the opposite direction of where the IPC says we should move? Instead of building nuclear power plants or shutting down nuclear power plants. What's your view about what's happening, and what's your view about where these countries are going and what it will take to turn things around?
Okay, speaking about what has happened since 2011 in Japan, well, people's general public's trust in nuclear, whatever nuclear, has declined and almost diminished, so that it is now very difficult for the nuclear power plant to restart. And since there is the 40-year limit, or which is sometimes it's been extended, but there is a limit of lifetime of the nuclear power plant, it is likely that the nuclear power plants will phase out because people's opposition of people for even restarting the nuclear power plant, it's so very, very strong. And constructing a new ones probably will be even more difficult in Japan. But on the other hand, our PM, Prime Minister, has now announced that by that the 46% or so reduction of the CO2 has to be done within Japan, and how to reach that goal is still being debated. And some people, of course, some politicians, think that without investing in nuclear, or sometimes new forms of nuclear, it will be very difficult to meet this goal. So that the discussion hasn't really started because of the people's resistance to talk about nuclear. But in view of the reduction of the CO2 and to meet this goal of climate change, preventing the climate change, I think we have to, at least start a healthy discussion among ourselves. That's what I think.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And maybe Katrina, but and then we'll go to final comments, I think, after this, because we're going to run out of time. But maybe you could pick up on Professor Hayano's last point. Do you think that these very aggressive targets the countries have set, in general, do you think they can be met without nuclear, or do you view nuclear as not just convenient or a better bet, but really essential to making the difference in climate and addressing climate change? How would you phrase it?
So I think nuclear is very important, and it is one of the steps to climate change, against climate change. So I agree with previous speakers, and yes.
All right, so thank you. And so since time is short, I know you all have prepared a few closing comments, so I think this is a good time to start those. And we'll just go in order of the speakers. So Hayono Sensei, please, the floor is yours for closing comments.
Okay. So hello again from Tokyo, everyone. Well, innovation is essential in this field. All the speakers today have talked about innovation, the importance of innovation. And innovation is often the result of bringing together very distant disciplines or previously unrelated ideas or different cultures, okay? Therefore, in addition to sharpening the professional knowledge and skills you have acquired so far, I would like to encourage you to increase your exposure to a variety of fields or variety of cultures, okay? That, I think, will inspire you to innovate. So we all hope that you will contribute to innovations and make the world a better place to live. Once again, congratulations to you all.
Thank you very much, Professor. Very, very, very well said. Professor Leblanc, you're next.
So again, I would like, on the behalf of the University of Saclay, to thank you for your hard work and congratulate again. The closing words would be like, you'll be in the near future the ambassador of our domain. So you are young engineers, you will be involved in the development, in the maintenance, in dismantling of these nuclear industry. But you will be the actor of our society to make our energetic future brighter and safer. So even though as an older generation, I should accompany you on this path, you are now within your hands the power to communicate, to inform people around you, to promote education about nuclear energy, and the safety that comes with it, how important it will be for challenging the climate problems that we're going to face. No, not we're going to face, that we are facing already now. So it's a huge task we ask, but I'm sure you'll be capable of facing this challenge, and we are here with you to walk on that path. And again, congratulations for all your hard work.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Arun.
Yes, thank you. Just to actually, maybe the other side of the coin to what Professor Hayono said, you talked about the meeting diverse people and speaking to other areas to encourage innovation. And I'd say, make sure you really listen. Actively listen to people and take on their points. Don't listen to respond, listen to understand, because that will really take you far. And in my experience, I've found that the more I conversate, talk to people, understand their perspectives, a richer picture I get of the world. So that's been one of my biggest learnings over the last few years. So I would really encourage that. And then just off the back of that, really figure out what drives you. What is it that, after listening to all the people around you, getting diverse perspectives, listen to podcasts, listen to YouTube videos, find out what really has piqued your interest and use that as your motivation in life, because that will really help you ensure that you're successful in whatever you do. So I'll finish there, and thank you very much, and congratulations again, everybody.
Well, thank you for that. I often give people very similar advice, that if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then you should do something else. It doesn't make any sense to have a career that you don't love doing. If you don't love getting out of bed every day, go do something else, and don't listen to people who tell you should. That's my advice to the graduates. Don't listen to people. Listen to yourself. I'm probably in trouble with some parents somewhere. Katrina, please.
Thank you very much. Congratulations again. Congratulations to all students. And I wish you always do the right things, always do your best, be excellent, and enjoy every day and every moment. Enjoy your work, enjoy your life. So that's why you will do the best things. And good luck. Thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you very much. And thanks to all of you. You were all excellent today. And also thanks to the opening keynote speakers this morning. Very inspiring. And I guess I just have a moment to just give my own closing remarks. And I'll just simply say that I agree with what our four excellent panelists here said. And you heard me already say that you should really enjoy what you're doing. But I also would point to the fact that this is such an exciting time. We've really not seen anything quite like where we are today. And I know younger people don't have the perspective, but when you're ancient, I'm really astonished that Professor Hayona is older than I am because he looks younger than I am. But when you're ancient, you look back on your career and you saw that, how things didn't change and how things seem to just move very slowly. Things are changing very rapidly right now. So those of you who are graduating today, you're coming into a world that is just full of possibilities and full of opportunities that simply were not there 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It's an extraordinarily exciting time, a time of change, a time of great revolution in technology that we're really experiencing today that many people really don't really understand. But I think many of you who are graduating today, you'll be right in the middle of it, and we'll be watching very closely to see what you do with your opportunity. So congratulations. My best wishes to all of you as you go forward with your lives and your careers. And again, my final piece of advice, echoing some of our panelists, is have fun. That's the most important thing. So with that, I'm going to pass the floor to our young graduate, Catherine, for a couple of closing comments and a special message. Catherine?
Hello again, everyone. It was wonderful to hear your remarks. But before closing, as mentioned at the start of the commencement, you'll now see in the chat a link for a feedback survey on the event. At the conclusion of the survey, there's an opportunity to share a few quotes on your thoughts and feelings on the commencement, as well as on the commencement theme, the role of early nuclear graduates in the fight against climate change. Selected quotes derived from this survey will be highlighted and disseminated on NEA platforms. And please follow the survey instructions carefully to potentially be selected. As a final words of farewell, we have a quote by Jim Hansen, read by Dr. Pushkar Sriracha.
Greetings from the US. My name is Dr. Pushkar Sriracha. I'm a climate scientist with the Columbia University Earth Institute, where I serve as the Deputy Director of the Climate Science Awareness and Solutions Program. The director of our research program, my colleague and mentor, Dr. Jim Hansen, was unable to participate in today's event, but he wanted me to share the following statement with all of you graduates. Modern nuclear power has the potential to make life better for people, to help us restore a healthy climate, and to allow more space on our planet for other species. The nuclear industry needs more bright young people, like all of you, to help make these things happen in the 21st century. If I were a young person, that's the field I would enter today. So on both his and my behalf, I wish all of you all the best with all of your future endeavors.
Thank you very much to our distinguished speakers and panelists, and many thanks to all who listened in. We appreciate your participation. Today's global commencement has been recorded and will be available online in the coming days. Make sure you follow the NEA on Twitter and LinkedIn to keep in touch with us and receive updates on events like this one. Thank you, and goodbye for now.